40 years ago, a dynamic dean, a spirited faculty, and a scrappy bunch of students hitched their futures to a fledgling law school with a new vision of legal education, and in the process laid an enduring foundation for Northeastern University's School of Law.
Well, first of all, we were told toward the end of my senior year, which is in the spring of 1953, that the college planned to close. No one wants to see their alma mater close. We tried to do what we could to change the attitude of the administration. We signed petitions, we had some meetings, but everything was to no avail. The die had been cast.
I was a member of the first class to attend the reopened law school at Northeastern University, which reopened in, I think it was 1968. It was a time of some turbulence, I guess I would say. I mean, that kind of attitude, that feeling throughout the country was certainly felt at Northeastern as well.
This was 68. This was the year, I mean, the school opened right after the Democratic National Convention in 68 in Chicago when the police rioted.
In the late 1960s and early 1970s, there was much more public awareness of social issues. Things like the environment, property rights, civil rights, and I think that Northeastern got involved, and justly so, with what was important.
It was, when I came, an unaccredited school with a program unlike any other law school in the country. It had no grades, it had written evaluations, it had a higher percentage of women than any other law school. It was sort of a law school for its time because it was, the late 60s were a time when people wanted to take risks, and if you really wanted to take a risk, you went to Northeastern.
I remember we had meetings with the faculty, regular meetings with the faculty every Friday. We were not bashful about letting the faculty know what we thought, and the faculty wasn't bashful about letting us know what they thought when we weren't living up to their expectations.
We knew that we were sort of a vanguard. We were an experiment. They were experimenting with us, and we were experimenting with the school.
Their act of genius was to hire a guy named Tom O'Toole, who was teaching at Georgetown as the initial dean.
Tom O'Toole was a visionary who was, I found him to be so adaptable, so willing to listen to new ideas.
An absolute Pied Piper when it came to talking both faculty and students into taking this chance.
And I think it was Tom O'Toole's vision. The one thing that Asa Knowles and the trustees had a vision of was the co-op program. They would not open up the law school if it wasn't on the co-op program. I don't think they really had any idea at the university level that it would take on the pioneering spirit, kind of the progressive social justice aspect, the informality.
You do your traditional schooling for your first year, fall and spring. And as soon as the fall and spring are over, you start on a quarter program. So starting that summer, you break into quarters. So you do summer, fall, winter, and spring. And so you have the 4 quarters, and you can be on either schedule, either the fall, spring, or the summer, winter. And so they split our class into half. You'll do opposite rotations. So you go for a quarter, they're 11-week quarters, you go to school, and then you go to work, and then you go to school and you go to work.
I really believe in this experiential learning thing. When I think back to my own education, anytime I've really learned something, it was by doing it.
I think the appreciation for a practical experience and a practical basis for experiential knowledge is huge at Northeastern. And it's absolutely stressed as something that is equally, if not more, important to an understanding and appreciation of what the law can mean and how the law affects people's lives. And I think there isn't a ranking of academic knowledge over experiential knowledge. I think both are held together at the law school.
There's no cookie-cutter Northeastern student. I'll be the first to tell you that. Walk down the halls and you'll know right away. But I think it's someone who needs to come in and be passionate about their legal career and their future.
It was a very thoughtful group of people. It tended to be a lot of people who were not just in law to make a lot of money, but were really focused on how they could help improve the world by being a lawyer and what they could do with those skills.
I think Northeastern draws a set of folks who aren't afraid to challenge legal institutions in this sort of rebellious and excited and passionate and extraordinarily competent way.
Frequently through the years, the University of thought we're nuts. You know, we have students who like to protest, who insist on their rights, insist on health care. I mean, all kinds of things.
Northeastern has always, I think, chosen leaders who are as passionate and irreverent as the rest of us, which includes both students and faculty. I think we're looking for creative thinkers. I think we're looking for people who are willing to question our most closely held values, and we trust them to do so for the purpose of advancing our mission. And I think we've been quite successful in that respect.
What I really think separates Northeastern is the cooperative environment. By having this environment that doesn't have a class ranking, it just fosters such a positive environment.
I mean, it definitely was not an experience of suffering through law school and just trying to get through the bar. It was extraordinarily meaningful to me.
Sometimes law school for some people can be a very isolating experience because some law schools are very competitive, which I think doesn't encourage a sense of community. But at Northeastern, we really had a sense of community among our class.
I hadn't applied to teach at any other law school. I wasn't interested in teaching for the sake of teaching. So it was really the institution that drew me back.
My hope for the school is a trajectory over the next 40 years that builds on the trajectory of the last 40 years. All of those of us who are alumni of this reopened school owe those folks an enormous debt of gratitude. The alumni who said this will not do when the law school was closed and made it a point to reopen the law school. And that's something that I think one should never lose sight of, and we should all be eternally grateful for.